Just bought a new handheld from a Chinese brand? Program it with... Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I've got here a nice selection of Chinese handhelds. Got this Retevis RT87, I believe this is. No need to introduce that one, everybody knows what those are. One of the most popular radios you can buy right now for firmware modification reasons. I've got a Baofeng GT5, well that's what it's called, it's actually just a Baofeng. And a Wuxen, however you pronounce that. I'm going to have to work out how you pronounce that. UV-6R, I believe that is. Yeah, have to peel this back. Certainly is a UV-6R. That's a 2 meter and 4 meter handheld, interestingly enough. And just tucked in the corner there, a variant of the Baofeng UV-5R. And that will be the one I'll be using later on, because in this video I'm going to demonstrate something that you really need to be doing before you actually start using these radios, because let's face it, it's A, much easier to have it all programmed up so you know where everything is, and B, well, you can't just transmit on any of the frequencies those radios are programmed for. Just off camera is my Yaesu FT2D, which, as supplied, is alright for the amateur bands, for 2 meters and 70 sems, but can be wide-banded by removing a 0 ohm link in the back, depending on the version. I've actually done that modification on that FT2D for taking it to America last year, which I actually never did in the end. That was just so I could use it while I was out there and it would actually transmit on the American frequencies, which it obviously wouldn't do as it was. If I want to use 146 to 147, I would need an NOV to do that. And I'm not sure if you can use FM down there anyway, because I don't actually know what that's for. So that's why I've not got the NOV. So radios differ mainly in programming cables, because this is what this video is all about. So on this one, I've got this type of connector here. It looks very similar to one on the Motorola GP340. I will actually show you that, so I'll just pause while I go grab the Motorola. Okay, so I grabbed the Motorola so I can show you the difference in size between those two connectors. As you can see, the Motorola one is much bigger, but kind of the same sort of vein. It clips on and screws down, and I do have the cable for that one, which is this one here. Actually has a similar sort of pin out to the Motorola, because the Motorola cable I've got does have the pins in a similar sort of place. So I'll just put the Motorola off to one side because we don't actually need that. And then these three are all the same. I'll show you on the Quansheng, which has got a aftermarket antenna on it because the original one has gone missing. So we've got connections like that. It's usually described as a K-type connection or Kenwood connection. And the cables for that are readily available. It would work with Kenwood handhelds as well. And it would just look a bit like that. The headset connections is exactly the same sort of plug. Oops, try not to hit the camera there. Oops, twice. And obviously they've all got a USB end like this. Now, this isn't just a straight through USB cable. Inside there's a controller chip. In that one, so I have checked it, is a prolific. So it'd be a nightmare to get it to work on Windows. I believe this is a prolific as well. This one for the Retevis. Excuse me. Yeah. So again, it would probably be a nightmare to get it to work on Windows because they just don't seem to work very well. You could easily make your own programming cable up. using something. I can probably find something like it. I did have it yesterday. It's a little module. I'm not seeing that immediately, but I did have a little module yesterday that I desoldered a cable from to use for other purposes, which will all be explained later. But basically what it is, it's just a module that connects to a USB cable and has a serial to USB chip on it, and then that connects to a computer. And if you can get the wiring diagrams for those, then, because they're all the same pretty much, then you can build your own programming cable using a chip that's probably going to work. I think these ones are FTDI, these ones I've got. Yeah, I'm still not seeing it, so I can't actually show you what it is. But it is something I had yesterday. And I know I had it yesterday because, like I said, I desoldered it from the cable that I used for something else. Yep, I'm not seeing it. It's not even on my workbench behind me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get this radio. Now this is powered on a battery eliminator. So it's not going to reach under the camera that well. It kind of does. I've not used this UV-5R for years. It's got my intermediate call sign in it. Shows how long it's been since I last used it. It's not making a good connection at the moment. That's just come out, that's why. That's why that didn't turn on. But it will turn on when I bring the computer in. So I'm going to go get the computer and we're going to get Chirp running, because I can't do it on my Shack computer because Chirp doesn't work on my Shack computer, because that's the piece of software we're going to be using. So I'll be right back and I should get that all set up, and that should be the next thing you see. And hopefully I'll get that UV-5R powered up. Okay, so I've plugged the USB cable into the computer. I've not plugged it into the radio end yet. I've had to use a USB extension cable so that it will reach the radio, because where I've had to put the laptop, it doesn't reach. It's the only spare bit of space I've got for putting the laptop so I can record this part. And to check that that cable's working, because it did come apart when I was trying to plug it in before, but that gave me an opportunity to actually take photographs of the inside to show you what's inside that. So I will pop that up on the screen just in a moment, but we'll have a look at the terminal window first. And it's the second to last device listed, which does prove that is a prolific. On Windows it'll probably come up with this device has malfunctioned or something like that, or it can't install the drivers, and when you go into the device manager it will always come up with this is not a genuine prolific, because they have a tendency to do that and you have to use some ancient drivers, which is a pain. But on macOS and Linux, as far as I'm aware, that's not a problem. But like I say, I do have photographs of the inside of this particular one, because it came apart when I was trying to plug it in, so I will show you those now, and then we can get on with the next part, which is running Chirp. Well, actually we'll get Chirp first, if you haven't already got it. So to get Chirp, you have to go to the website and look for the CHIRP-Next software. And if you go to the downloads page, click on the download link here. And then that will give you a list of different installers. So you've got them different versions for, like that's the macOS version, that's the standalone version for Windows, that's the installer version for Windows, which most people would use anyway. That's the source code if you want to build it, and that's a Python wheel, which I generally use on a Linux system because it's much easier. to do that rather than trying to compile it myself. But sometimes even that takes a bit of time, so I just let it do. So I'm not going to go through that whole process because it may take a while, but the Windows version, download that installer and run it, and just check any warnings, and if it asks for administrator privileges, just make sure that you say yes, it can do that, because otherwise it might not install. There's a certain other things you've got to do as well on other systems. I can't comment on macOS because I don't use it, because I don't have any Macs in this house. I can't afford them, they're too expensive. So now we'll have a look at the software once you've got it all installed and going. So this is the software running. It's telling me there's a new version available, which I actually already know because I have actually looked on there, as you would have seen. But we're not going to install that today, so we're going to cancel that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on that radio, if it'll turn on. Just remember, the wire did drift out. So it's the UV-5R. I can be very careful with this. Yeah, so that's turning on. That's just to confirm that's turning on. So I'm going to turn it back off. I'm going to open up the headphone connector. I'm going to plug in the programming lead. Make sure it goes in all the way. I have to try that again for whatever reason that's not going in. Yeah, this one doesn't want to go into this. There we go. It's just a bit tight. So I'll turn that back on. That's now back on. I'm not sure if it'll stay in the camera. I'll just have to have a quick look. Yeah, I've got it in the camera. So now that's connected up, what we can do with that radio is we need to download from the radio. That's the first thing you do, and the port that the radio is on. Now this computer has kind of figured out where it would be, which is TTY USB 0 on Linux systems. I don't know what it is on Macs, so can't comment, but it'll be COM and then a number. You'll probably be a few of those, so you may have to look in Device Manager to find out which one it is, assuming you've only got one of these programming cables plugged in. So vendor for that one, it's already set to Baofeng, we don't need to change it, but as you can see, lots of different vendors. So we can program anything. It does mention Yaesu, but the FT2D is not supported. So we're going back up to the top for Baofeng, which is there. We'll change that to UV-5R. Because that's what it is. It's a and you will get that warning. Do you accept the risk? Well, we do accept the risk. And we'll press OK. Now it gives you the instructions on how to do it. We've already done step 1, we've already done step 2, we've already done step 3. Step 4, it says volume may need to be set at 100%, but I found it works fine without doing that. Ensure the radio is tuned to a channel with no activity. Always a good check. That one's on PMR 446 channel 1. And then click OK. You can have it not bring that prompt up again if you want. So we're going to press OK and see if it actually will download from that radio. Radio did not respond. Let's check that's okay. Okay, again it didn't respond, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. What we'll do is we'll take the cable out and put it back in again. Make sure it's in. And there we go. So there's a green light flashing on the front of the radio while it's doing this. And when it's done, the radio should reset, and actually the radio didn't reset in this instance. Oh, it has. And everything that's programmed into that radio is now on the screen. So there's some repeaters at the top, and if we scroll down, channel 0 is empty on this. I've got 70 cm calling channel there. Got all the simplex channels on 70 centimeters. I've got all the simplex channels on 2 meters, and I've got the repeaters at the top. So there's a couple of things you can do with this. Now, if you want to program your radio for PMR446, if you go to File, Open Stock Config, and what we can do is I'm going to find that, this one, and you can write all those to the radio. So that's the LPD433 channels. Technically you'd still need an amateur radio license to use those on a radio like this. Now it says 50 watts in that power column, ignore that. Then you've got the 446 channels at the bottom, so you can just cut and paste those into your radio if you want. So what you can do is you can select these. So I'm using the shift key and then pressing the down arrow to do that. Then should be able to copy those, and what we can do is we can copy these into here. So we can copy a configuration file into here. So I'm going to put that down there. So let's paste those in. So they're in. So what we can do now is press radio, press upload to radio, and press OK, and make OK again, and then we should have the green light flashing, but a little bit faster. So just wait for that to finish. Radio should restart. There we go. And what I'll need to do is I'll need to put it into memory mode, press the orange button at the top on the 5R, and then go through the arrow keys and look for PMR446 channels. Let's see if we can find those. Here we go. Those are the PMR446 channels. So we'll go PMR446 channel 1, and I'll grab a PMR446 because I just so happen to have one to hand. Have a Silvercrest, which is actually a rebadged Retevis. I did a little look at these videos. It's in the back radios rather. It's in the back catalogue of videos. So I'm transmitting on the PMR, and the green light's lighting up on the radio. I can transmit, but that's not advised for obvious reasons. So that's now programmed for PMR446. Bit of grey area as far as legality is concerned, because it's not that UV-5R and pretty much every Baofeng is not type approved for PMR 446. I think except maybe certain Baofengs that were built that way, because I think you can get them. I've seen them in the past. I'm not sure if you can still get them now. I think they're probably also programmable with CHIRP. I've not actually checked. But that's basically the ins and outs of programming it. Now, if you want to set CTCSS, you would put it into the box where it says tone mode. I'll go up to the repeaters and I'll show you how that's actually set up. So you can, if you set it for TSQL, that's tone squelch, because this is actually that old. This was from when GB3CD was a dual band analog and system fusion repeater. It isn't anymore that I know of. But anyone who lives within closer proximity to GB3CD than I do can correct me if I'm wrong. So that's why that's set for tone squelch, which means it's transmit and receive. If it's just tone, it's just transmit only, which is absolutely fine, because that is pretty much how you'd want that. If you were using business band, you'd probably use CTCSS, because you can open the stock config and you can program one of these. If I can find it. It is on here. That's it. Here we are. UK business. So that's all the UK. So that's all of your UK business frequencies. So if you've got a business license, you could program into that. But I'm not sure if you can actually use those with the UK business licenses, like the UK sim. These are the simple light frequencies. That one is that license is £75 for 5 years. Last I checked. So if you do have a business use for radio, you can get that license. Just make sure you stay within the terms of it, because Ofcom will probably revoke it if you don't. So you can program those frequencies into UV-5R, or if you've got a BF-888, you can program the UHF frequencies there into that, and then you've basically got a radio, and you can set it up for CTCSS as well. You could also, if you go to stock config, you can get, if you're in Australia, it'll let you download. You can download the Australian UHF CB channels. I'm not sure if any of these radios will go up that far. Can't remember what they are. I think they're at 477 off the top of my head. I'm not going to open that one up. You can get the FRS and GMRS channels for the United States on here. You can get the NOAA weather alerts for the United States as well if you want to download that. There is a way to import from Repeater Book as well. I think you have to download and then import a CSV. But you can also have the German freenet frequencies as well if you are in Germany. So we'll have a look at those. So that's those there at about 149 megs. Again, most of this won't bear much relevance to the radio, depending on the radio. So if we're going to settings, we can change certain settings in the radio. So you can set the squelch to its lowest in here, or its highest. You can turn the battery saver on and off. Set the backlight timeout. You can turn the key beeps on and off. I like to have them off because I can. You can set the timeout timer. It says off if supported by radio, so you can actually do that. And the display modes A and B, which in this case is set to name. Standby LED colour, purple on that radio, blue for receive, transmits for orange. Roger bleep on and off if you want it on and off. You know, PMR 446, a lot of radios have the Roger bleep turned on, but in amateur and business use you probably would want that turned off. So advanced settings on this radio, you can change certain things in here as well, including a squelch tail eliminator as well. I've got that turned off. There's a range override parameter. I am not changing that because I don't know what it does. So other settings, it tells you the firmware in the radio, and you can change things in here. Now we're going to change that for starters. And you can change the frequency limits on this radio as well, and enable or disable UHF transmit apparently. Yeah, so the upper limit on that radio is currently set to 520. I've not tried that, and I have no intention of trying that because that interferes with TV channels and is somewhat illegal. You can tell it whether it sets with a power on message or just displays all the segments of the display. If you do that, so work mode, it says display B, but that's how I've got it set up at the moment because you can change that on the radio anyway with the AB button on this radio. It says frequency there for VFO-MR mode, although I think that was before I put it into memory mode. And those are the channels that were on the VFO before I put it into memory mode. And these are plus and minus shifts, and those are the offsets, although you can set them on a per channel basis anyway. It says the VFO-A power is high and the VFO-B power is low. That is intentional. And there's PTT IDs as well, which we don't really bother ourselves with here. There's PTT codes like that. We don't bother ourselves with those in the amateur world. And we've got some service settings here, which are all to do with squelch by the looks of it. I'm not going to change any of those because obviously I don't want to muck up the radio. So what we will do, because now I've changed my call sign in the radio, is we will upload to radio again. So it should reboot next time with the correct call sign programmed into it, although this radio is getting converted to an Allstar node. And that should be done. That's better. Yeah, let's not have a UV-5R trying to demote me, shall we? So I'm not going to change too much more here. I will go through the setting of a channel with CTCSS. I'll just tack another 446 channel on the bottom. 2, 5. So if we put the frequency in first, name's optional. Tone mode, we can set that to tone or TSQL. Most people use TSQL, and we can set it to anything we want. So we're going to set it to, let's set it to 131.8 just for the sake of argument. It's set an offset of 5 there. We're going to change that to, we're going to take that offset off. We're going to have blank on there, and that will blank that out. We'll set that to narrow FM, and that's all ready to go. So that's on channel 1 on PMR446. So what we'll do is I will write that to the radio and we'll demonstrate that. demonstrate it again with the silver crest, which is already on the channel. So I'm going to set that to a CTCSS different to what it's expecting. There we go. Okay, just wait for that to reset. It has. If I There we go. So that's the one set with the CTCSS. So it's lighting up the radio. I'm going to disconnect the lead. Let's just reset it. There's no sound coming out of that radio because the CTCSS is not matched. And the other way should be exactly the same. This radio, I'm going to bring it in, isn't opening. So, see if I can remember what number that is on this radio. It's been a while. It's 20. That was a good guess. Maybe from testing 1, 2. So, yeah, that's all okay. That's working. So that's how you set up CTCSS, or you can do that with DCS as well. So that radio will support it. Not all radios support that, but that one does. So that's basically programming with Chirp. I think I've gone over everything. If there's anything I've missed, do let me know in the comments below. Because there is one final thing I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it off camera, and I'm going to reprogram that radio to use as an Allstar node. And the reason why I'm going to use it as an Allstar node is because I don't use it as a handheld, and I don't have a battery for it because the battery fell off and disappeared when I was out testing it one day. I will be doing more on programming radios. I will be doing some on Motorola programming. So we'll be going over the programming of this radio, and we'll be going over the programming of the GM350, which you can't see that well, I don't think, but they're just over here out of shot, because I haven't done a proper full video on programming those, or even this GP340EX, because these do go on eBay now and again, and if you want to use them for either amateur or business purposes, chances are you are going to have to reprogram them. Whilst I have the facilities to do that here, not everybody might know what they're doing, so I will go over the full thing, tell you how to do it and that sort of thing. Okay, because I am turning this radio into an Allstar node, I've already programmed it off camera. I've programmed it up for one of the two frequencies here on the RSGB band plan. So there's 434 or 438.8. So it's 434 because my digital voice hotspot, which is DMR, System Fusion, and some other digital modes, yeah, that operates on 438.8, and I don't want the two hotspots to kind of clash, if you know what I mean, even though this Allstar node will be protected by CTCSS. I'm set a CTCSS on it, but I've decided I'm not going to disclose the CTCSS code because it's a personal hotspot for my personal use to access Allstar. I haven't set up an account with Allstar yet. I tried doing that, and there's a capture to recapture one on that page, and I could not click the tick box to say I am not a robot. So I think the people at Allstar Link might need to have a look at that. I don't know why that happened, but it unfortunately happened. And the electronic side of things, I'm slowly but surely working on that because I want to try and get the radio to key up using the Raspberry Pi that I'm going to use to do the job. That's already got the software installed. I just now need to do all of the other stuff. Anyway, I'm going to get this all wrapped up. 7.3 for now. I will catch you in the next one. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be, because obviously it is a bit of a struggle for me to make videos at the moment, bearing in mind I am lacking transport. And obviously if you like my content, you could subscribe to the channel, you can ring the bell, and you could also become a channel member if you like, which you've got two options for that. You've got the cheaper option, which just puts a little bit of money in towards the channel, or the more expensive option, which allows you to, which is not that much expensive actually, which allows you to have early access to the videos, because I do release some videos early access to members. Super thanks buttons there as well if you want to chip in a little bit, or you can even buy me a coffee. The link pops up on the screen at the end of the videos. So I will catch you in the next video, whenever that may be.